And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Ambrosia, a bee-themed game, which will not be the first or last review you see on this subject on this channel. There are a lot of bee games out there right now. Ambrosia is an abstract strategy game from Skellig Games, where you have a stack of bees and you're moving them slightly Mancala style around the board. Slightly because there's some different rules to it. And this is the kind of game where you are going to try to get stuck and not be able to move. It's a little counterintuitive, so I'll show you. But before I do, look at that gorgeous cover. That's a really cool looking bee. Alrighty, let's get to the game. In this game, players are going to be moving around a track. The track is going to change in size based on the number of players. So if I was playing with 4 players, I would add in a piece in between these two to make it basically a big giant circle. If you're playing with 2, you just use these 4 pieces. Each player has a whole stack of bees, but you're not using them at the beginning of the game. You're just going to use 6 ordinary bees, and then you'll pick one of your specialty bees to start with and put it at the top of your stack. Now, the object of this game is to have the most points, have the most honey at the end of 6 different scorings here. So on your turn, you'll pick one of your stacks where you have more than 1. So let's say I pick this, and you'll pick anything. You can pick any number from that stack and move them clockwise. So maybe I'll pick 4 from here. They would move 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then yellow goes 2. Brown goes 1. Then blue, I can move from this stack to this stack. Now, I could not go 3, 1, 2, 3, because you cannot land on top of another player's color unless they have a single stack there. So maybe I will just move 2. And then yellow moves 1. And then brown moves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, it's only 5 in that stack, so they move there. Then blue cannot move 1 again, so this stack can't move, so blue moves 1 of these. Yellow decides to move 2. They can't move 2 of these. Well, they could, I guess, land on top of their own, so they'll do that. They'll move 2 there. Brown decides to move 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then blue decides to move 1. Yellow decides to move 3. 1, 2, 3. Now, you might be asking, why are you moving this way? What you're trying to do is you're trying to put yourself in a position where you can't move. Let's say brown decides to move 2. 1, 2. Now, they can land on top of another stack because there's only 1 blue in that stack. So now it's blue's turn. So this is tricky for blue. We look at their pieces. Blue cannot move these pieces here because, well, I guess no, they can move 1. They can move 1 on top of this one. Never mind. So blue has to do that. Yellow decides they're going to move this one 1. Brown decides they're going to move this one on top of this blue. Now we're back to blue's turn again. And blue can't move there. Blue can't move a single one. Blue can't move this one, so blue cannot move. And in fact, you're supposed to check if you can't move after you're done moving. So I'd have to go back in time, but blue may not have been able to move after the end of their last turn. But whenever that happens, whenever you can't move, whether it's at the beginning of your turn or at the end of your turn, you instantly do a scoring. You look anywhere where you're the top. So here, this is 2 honey. This spot is 1 honey. This is 3 honey. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Why is this a double? Because this one's on top here and he doubles it. So that's going to give me 8 honey. I score 8 honey. Then I pick up any of my bees. Let's say this one. Go clockwise and pick up all the bees that you can see. These bees are trapped for now. I'm sure they'll come out eventually. And there we go. Except I'm going to take one of these bees, put it there to show scoring has occurred, and switch it out for one of my specialty bees. There's all kinds of specialty bees. Each one of them will do different things. One can move in reverse. One gives you an extra honey point. One lets you go an extra space. One lets you move counter trigger scoring like a double stack, etc. So there's all kinds of things that you can do. But each time you do that, you're going to place one here. If you're the last person to place on a stack, then you will get some royal jelly. Also, as you're moving points here, if you're the last person to reach one of these spots on the board, you will get a royal jelly. Royal jelly can be spent to take an extra turn right away, to free one of your counters and go at the top of the next of your stacks, or simply just to take a point if you're desperate for points, and that's what you'll do at the end of the game. After we have a certain number of scorings, depending on how many players are in the game. So a 2-player game would go to that many scorings. The 3-player would be 5 scorings. A 4-player would be 4 scorings. Then whoever has the most points wins. There's a couple variations that you can play with. You can play with the alternate sides to the board, where there's different types of areas and some special things that will happen when you land on them. There are different cards that you can play with that you can use in games also, special events. And whoever has the most points is the winner. These have to be stickered at the beginning of the game, but they are really nice. And there is a very satisfying feeling to picking up a stack of them and moving it around the board. Royal jelly pieces look good. The board fits together. The whole thing has a really nice look to it. And as I already said, big fan of that cover. But I can never remember what any of these do. And as the game goes by, there are more and more of them out there. And even though there's a little thing here that tells you, it's not always quite clear. The rule book happily explains what the different sides do. I mean, if you're using the other side of the board, there's all these spaces, and what all the different special events do, and what the counters do. It's just something, I don't know, I found it to be slightly annoying even after playing a couple times. It just felt like an extra thing. We were always like, what does that B do again? And I can't tell you how many times I landed on top of a B, and it's like, nope, you can't land on top of that B. And I was like, oh, that's right, I can't go on top of that one, or I can't move this one, or that's the one I can move backwards. So once you get past the first few scorings, there's a lot of special abilities compounded up. So this game, for me, felt fairly counterintuitive. It's very interesting, but a game where you are trying to put yourself in a position where you can't move is very interesting. I like the idea of it, and it worked well in concept. And in fact, one of the things that this game does pretty neat is it scales really well. I think it's probably best with 2 players. And if you like it, there's this option to open it up with the extra, the event cards and with the other side of the board. And you can try different Bs out, although I think some Bs are clearly better than others, but that might just be a personal preference thing. The one that can't be landed on, the one that doubles the spot is clearly better than the one that adds 1. But regardless, I found this to be a fascinating sort of game, but it's a game that even though I've played several times now, I really don't know if I'm doing well. I don't know what good opening moves are. I don't know what good secondary moves are. I just move, try to look ahead a little bit and say, if I move here, that will stimmy these and I can't move. But if they move there, and then I move here, and then they, and to that end, while I can look at Ambrosia and go, pretty interesting, it's not a game I personally want to play very often. There's way too many special abilities, and if you play on the other side board, things going off at any given time. At the beginning, it's a little more manageable. You have 3 or 4 or 2, depending on how many players are in the game, 1 for each player, and you can watch that one be. But once a second one comes out, pretty soon you're like, okay, that's there, this is there, I can go here, I can move here, and the game can really slog down. So combining all those special things going off with a very, again, unintuitive. I'm used to capturing things, to trying to move out and clear the lanes in an abstract strategy game. This one's like clog up. I'm not even sure what the theming of this game is. Like, why are bees trying to not move so they can collect honey? Doesn't matter. It's, again, very, very abstract. It's beautiful, and I think it's going to appeal to some people. I think there's going to be folks out there who really enjoy this style of game. It's just one that I found to be a game that I can respect. And I didn't even dislike it, but I don't think you'll see me asking to play this. I don't necessarily get any excitement when I've won this game or lost it. I just was like, that was an interesting game, but afterwards, I would have a very difficult time recounting to you exactly what I did to make me win or lose. I move pieces around clockwise. There are times I go, oh, that was a bad move, or oh, that was a good move. I'm starting to see those more. But to get to the point where I can really delve into it would require, I think, quite a few more plays. And the game doesn't hold me fascinated enough to do that much with it. But your mileage may vary. There's certainly one thing we'll say about Ambrosia. It's unique. It takes that Mancala thing, but it's slightly different. It's a game that I found to be very difficult to teach. And it's a game where oftentimes I was like, I can't move. And someone would say, Yeah, you can. It's a game that's easy to miss stuff in too. So put all that together and it's a very nicely produced game that I think is going to appeal very strongly to a few people. Not as much for me. Dice Tower Judgment, interesting.